Oh, right. It is May 3rd, 2020. It's a little late on Saturday. I didn't record this a little bit earlier like I wanted to, but I am recording it now. This is a weekly review of some of the stocks that I traded during the week. Um, hopefully that you'll find this helpful. I will really more closely pay more attention to the ones that I lost um, that I lost money on, which was MRSN, BLPH, and INO. Those are the ones that have like the most lessons. And then UAVS, even though I earn on that one definitely has a lesson just because of the amount of intensity that it took just to ramp up close to $5 or a little over $5 before coming right back down. So let's start with MRSN. And usually, like what I've done before, is I'll go into some of my notes. So I'll go into one of my notes that I wrote for MRSN, and I was saying that there was insider buying. And I found this out on the FinViz website. If you look towards the bottom of the website, it shows you, well, when you type in any company that you're looking for to investigate on the stock market, it will show you if there are any investor buys, and it will typically display it at the bottom of the page. So I did see that there was some insider buying since the Corona crash started to happen, and it was starting around the twos and $9 area. So I ended up buying this. I did put down some other statistics, like knowing where the resistance was, which is at 10, and knowing that there was a short float of about 4%, and how hard it was trading, like what was the volume, right? So there was a couple of things that really caught my eye on that initial day, and then I ended up having to sell. And I bought it a couple of times. So let's actually go to the first time that I bought it. Well, the first time, let's see. Okay, yeah. So this is a 5-day chart. Each candlestick represents 2 minutes. This is Tuesday, right? So I bought this on Tuesday when it was going up. I actually bought it at the $9.40 area. Then I sold up here at $10.30, I believe, right? And so when I sold here, essentially, when I was looking at how it was moving during the pre-market, um, it was already overbought. And typically, when a stock is already overbought during the day, during the pre-market, once the market opens, sometimes it can continue to ramp up and go higher. But I wanted to curb on the side of caution, so I ended up selling right at, I put it at 1030 as a resistance. It went up to 1042. But the only reason why I said 1030 is because when we started to go back just a little bit further, um, no, not here. Where are you? Because that's what I put it here. And there was a reason why I was like, okay, 1030 should be that resistance area. Um, and just to go back just a little bit to see, no, it wasn't there. So it might have been on the year chart. And essentially, when I saw um, 1030, like right around here, this is more 1009 though. Well, essentially, I looked back on the chart, and some told me they either put in the price between 1020 and 1030. I chose 1030, and not only did it spike a little bit higher, it's like what 12 cents higher than where I put it at. It really did start to come back down to crash, and that's the most important part is when really to identify when that crash is going to happen. I know I keep on changing from time frames. Um, but I just want to really like hone in on, not only just identifying that, hey, this is resistance on the actual price chart, But if we look at the MACD is showing that bullish momentum is almost coming down. So we need to be prepared for that, and that it's overbought. It's overbought on the RSI. So, with those two things alone, I end up selling. But I also end up buying again, right? So, um, after it came down, as opposed to waiting for it to come down to the 200 EMA, which is this red line. The yellow line is the 100, the green line is the 50, and the purple line is the VWAP. So 50, 100, 200 EMAs. So instead of waiting for it to come back down, I'm working on this little behavioral issue that I have. One is knowing that I don't have to buy 15 to 30 minutes after the market has opened. I can wait for activity to continue to progress. So as opposed to waiting for the activity to progress and waiting to see if it will come down to the 200 EMA, and if that 200 EMA can pull up over the VWAP, I didn't do any of that. I ended up buying a little bit more here, and then the next day when I started to see that weakness, where as you could see, it was not pulling across this $10 mark. So as it was starting to find some weakness, not only was it finding weakness in the MACD, because the MACD was starting to cross below the x-axis, which I will do a whole video on just the MACD and the RSI, um, and its importance with the VWAP. But as we could see this with the stock that I traded, like you could tell that there is some decline happening here with these two lines, these two highlighted lines decreasing below the x-axis. And then also when we see the RSI, we see that it's being oversold at this point, or at least approaching oversold, right? So I sold right here at that 944 area. I ended up losing for 50 cents a share. Not something that I want, and I know I was a little bit too aggressive on buying more shares, or buying shares period, because I ended up buying 400 shares. um, I didn't have to buy that many, particularly after just earning. So this is a little behavioral thing that I am trying to get used to. um, Knowing that just because the stock did spike up and it pulled back doesn't mean it's going to go back up again in order for me to earn anything. So this wasn't a good rebuy at all. Maybe this would have been if I, wait for this to drop a little bit lower to like the 950s before buying in, and then realizing that this $10 area is resistance, and then just selling back into that resistance. But yeah, essentially this was something that was not trying to break that $10 resistance. And like I said, if we back, um, if we go back, not here but over here, right? We see that this $10 area right here, somewhere right here, somewhere right here. And I know it's a little bit under, it's under by like 40 cents, but still, we're not seeing any other places where $10 might have been tested in that past 180 days. And now, yeah, I just switched the time frame. So this time frame is each candlestick represents 1 hour in the past 180 days. So yeah, there was no type of testing $10. So it was just better just to get out. Let's move on to the next one. Even though this probably could have some MRSN, probably could have some type of movement later. Um, but right now I can only see it decreasing and probably testing its lows after these two strong red candlesticks here. But we'll see if there's a bounce at any given time. Now BLPH. BLPH, another coronavirus related stock. And I ended up buying this because it had some nitrous oxide that they use as far as their treatment with a ventilator. And because it was a low float last week, Friday, yeah, I bought this last week, Friday on the 23rd. And since it was, or was it the 24th that I bought it? I think I bought it on the 24th was a Friday or the 23rd? Mm, yeah, the 24th was a Friday. So let's see how to do this. I, oh, this was this week. I bought it last week. Okay, so here, like I said, I bought this a couple of times. Um, and particularly, I ended up, even though I bought here and I was trying to sell on the run up, I did sell some on the run up, but fat finger mistake because for some odd reason, I ended up buying more on Monday. I sold some. No, this is not the one that I sold and bought. I think that was INO. There was one that I bought by accident or sold by accident and then rebought some more. And I believe it was this one because it just started to come back down. And yeah, I believe it was because I ended up buying some. I'm not even really sure where I bought in here. I just know that when I did buy, and this was on. Okay, so let's go by this, right? Friday. On Friday, I'm not. I bought 200 shares, and then on Monday, I ended up selling those 300 shares. Um, I know I sold that 275 shares, but it was just this 300 shares that I bought. One when it was coming down on Friday morning, and then I bought some more when it came down a little bit lower, um, thinking that it was going to bounce. And as we see on the hour chart, there was no clear bounce. It found resistance at that 1860-ish area, pulled back, and then pulled back again on the second hour. So this wasn't anything really for me to buy. And the only reason why I'm going over this now is because this was a sell over the weekend from that Friday going into Monday. And I ended up selling this a little bit lower than I really wanted to. I think a whole dollar lower. So I ended up selling it like 1660. Let's see, can I get 1660? So I ended up selling this at 1660 on Monday once the market opened. And remember, this is what I held on Friday. So that's the only reason why I'm really going over this stock is because I held it over the weekend. But still, over the weekend, stocks or plays still have great volatility that could happen during the pre-market. So even though it wasn't really showing great signs here, I was only anticipating that this candlestick could actually retest this 1770 area. It never did. It only maintained that $17 area and then pulled back. Once it pulled back, it was only, wasn't going to do anything much after that. So I ended up losing probably closer to like $300 or so on this one. It was enough for me to realize that I am not only rebuying stocks that I've sold for profit, but I'm buying them way too early and not allowing themselves to really show what they can do once the market opens. So buying way too early once the market opens and seeing if there is any strength, or any strength as the market continues to unfold are two things that I need to work on. You know, take the profits, wait, walk away, and then after that, see if it's holding strength going into the close. So this is like after lunch. So we're thinking more like 1:30 to 2:30. Start doing the research to see if rebuying should even happen. So it didn't, I really did misjudge this. I played it wrong, but it's okay. It's okay. So it wasn't like the worst thing I could do, but something like this, definitely scaling back on the amount of shares that I buy could probably help because I didn't really need to buy any shares after I sold it. You know, so like I said, I'm just repeating that once again. And then INO is another stock that not only that I played a couple of times, I made money on it a couple of times, but I also had some losses on it. And I want to start with the year chart. As we can see with the year chart, it started. It found some resistance around this 16, almost $17 area. I want to say it's about 16.50. Um, and the one thing I did know is that even though it was a recent spiker, so even though it went up high over here and it came all the way up to almost $20, came up to like 19.30. It also could crash, right? And being that it is a stock that has a higher float than what I typically like to go for, the float is the amount of shares. So the amount of shares that it has um, available for trading is 145 million. Typically, I like shares that are around, less than 80 million. So I'm really looking forward to 50 and 40 million float size. This has three times that, right? So you can see this precipitous drop. It was only another factor of how the float actually played, and then probably news and before earnings and stuff like that. So there are a couple of other factors, but I knew that it could drop like this. So even though I was buying and selling on the up, coming down, even though I saw it, I knew that it was overbought. I knew that it was overbought on this day. This day was the 24th, the 27th. All right, I ended up getting in on this, and this was the last time that I bought it because there was no reason why I needed to buy it after this. You know, um, in the pre-market on that Monday, it was pretty much doing okay. It was doing all right. It even jumped up. I sold some shares at the $45, well, 45, but $14 area after buying in like the 13s. But it was right before this spike up to the 15s and 16s. So I knew that it had spike appeal. I knew that, and it was only because of what it was able to do in the pre-market the other days prior. The other days during the pre-market, it was really finding some movement. Um, so we see even over here, it was moving pre-market. Right, the shaded area is all pre-market. The shaded area is all pre-market. So I was buying and selling in the pre-market. I was buying and selling when the market was opening. So I was you know trying to run this course properly, but I did a little bit way too much. Um, Even when it came up to here on this Monday, um, you know, I ended up having to sell. I ended up having to sell on this run up here. Let's get the real price. That's the part that I'm missing is really being able to identify what prices and share amount that I bought into. I know that I sold all of my shares because it says 450 and then this says 350. I sold at 350 because I finally was giving in to my own stubbornness. And because I was giving in to my own stubbornness, and I said, finally, I will just sell it. I ended up losing closer to like 900, maybe $1,000 on this one. So, and it was me pretty much not being disciplined. I really didn't show any discipline whatsoever on this stock. And not only did I sell it way too soon back over here, well, when I bought it, and then I sold it over here way too soon, I tried to jump right back in. And when I jumped right back in after this spike, and let's go back to the 2 minute, 5 day chart. Um, After I sold it, I ended up buying more. Why did I buy more? I think it was the same thing that I had with BLPH. I'm like, okay, this stock has news. They have this drug. They're in competition with Moderna and Gilead. Well, now that we know Gilead is, putting out Redisivir, which is supposed to be the common drug of choice to get to eliminate coronavirus. But you know, essentially, when I sold over here and saw this run up, After I saw this run up, I was actually pretty upset that I missed it because I was really like seconds away, or well, actually minutes away from the run up. Um, which is fine. You know, I know that I'm not going to be able to time everything perfectly, but um, you know, I allowed that to play a factor in my decisions. And then not only did I buy more, but when I tried to, when I did try to sell, I put in the wrong order. I put in the wrong order of only 100 shares. So as opposed to actually selling the rest of the lot, you know, which would have been 150 shares, I ended up buying 200 shares. So I ended up buying 200 shares over down when it was lower. It did find some bounce, but it never did cross the VWAP. And not only did it not cross the VWAP, the green line, which is the 50-day moving average, was crossing over the 100-day, which crossed over the 200-day, and only went lower from there. And if we know anything, and I'm going to hone on this one more time, if it starts trading below the VWAP and the EMAs are trading as well below the VWAP, um, chances are that the 50 EMA will cross over the 200 EMA and create a longer downtrend, which did happen throughout the course of the day. So this can happen, and using the VWAP is key or it's critical. You know, I knew that I could have sold all of everything that I had right back here in the 15s, but I chose not to, right? And I held it all the way down to the 13s. So, you know, a good $1,000 loss would do that to you. But um, with this loss, I did find a lot of success because I realized that, you know, with BLPH and INO, I was being way too aggressive and I needed to get back to just taking singles again. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up just taking singles again with the trades later throughout the week. So not only did I lost $1,000, but I also towards the end of the week gained everything back, and it really did take practice to hone in on what behavioral um, issues that I might be holding on to that's preventing me from really finding uh, the trading pattern during the day that will allow me to execute a good trade to get a good profit, right? Because that's what we want. We want to be able to identify the setup. So when we identify the setup, we can actually get in and then execute to get a good trade to get out, right? Um, and that comes with like patience, time, recognition. And I did recognize that this was going to downtrend, but I did not heed any of the warnings. I saw the MACD and I said, oh, the MACD can cross back over the x-axis and show some potential. It never did. I never saw the RSI show any type of uptrending that will cause it to be overbought. Didn't get that. So because it was finding that resistance at that 1530 area, and you know this is another point of area, this is another point, right? This is all resistance there. Since it was finding that, I, you know, let me go back to the hour chart. Let me see if there's any more resistance there as well. But you know, this is all hindsight. Sometimes that's the most that we can do. Um, and we'll talk about it in hindsight, just so when we go back over it or see it in the future, we can clearly recognize it, identify it. So even though there was that 15, 30-ish area, yep, like, well, that's 15, it was right around here. Well, I guess $15 was more of the support, not 15.30. So either way, it was still showing strong downside. The candlestick itself on the hour chart lets you know that this strong candlestick is all downside from there. Even though there might be a pop up with this green candlestick, still, you know, you match it up with the MACD and the RSI, it still shows downtrending. And then that's what it did. You know, when you have the wick at the bottom, you know, that can be buyers and sellers. So we hope that we get more buyers. If we're a bull, we get more buyers that will cover up that wick on the previous candlestick. But um, if that candlestick is not strong enough, and the following candlestick is stronger than this previous on the downside, then we're going to get this precipitous downturn, which happened. But as you can tell, it's still INO still moves during the pre-market, even in the after hours. Still moving during the pre-market and the after hours. So it was still making movements, but it wasn't making the substantial movements that it was doing way back last week, um, which is fine. I learned a lot from this. I learned that you cannot be overly aggressive when it comes to trading a lot of these stocks, just because we never know, you know, not just be overly aggressive. When I say overly aggressive, meaning that not only do I already have previous amount of shares, but I'm buying more, um, because I believe that my opinions on the stock are stronger than what the actual market is moving. So, if I'm just paying attention to how the market is moving, then that over aggression can be quelled, can be calmed down, can be settled a lot more. So, those were my three losers of the week. It was INO, MRSN, and BLPH. Now, well, technically only two, because BLPH was just a carryover the from the Friday coming into this past Monday. Um, so the 24th into the 27th. But the other stocks that I did actually do pretty well on, and I traded APY. I'm not going to really go too much into detail on it, because I think more of the learning lessons were in my losses. But essentially, with this one, like I said, this was an oil play. I'm not this particular chart is the reverse of everything that I typically do. I don't like it when the 200 EMA is up here and the 100 is below that and the 50 is below that. I don't like any of this. Right now, yes, there are some stocks where if this type of pattern does occur, it can spike up. Um, but I am not predicting that that will happen all the time. And the only reason why I ended up buying this was mainly, when the chart was showing that there was some support around this 990 $10 area. So I was like, oh, okay, it's showing some type of support. Maybe I can get in at like the 1030s, 1050s. I didn't get in over there. Um, but I knew I was going to hold it overnight. And another thing that I've been researching was that if the candlestick not only ends on a strong green, it also had earnings. This is a very downtrending chart. The EMAs flipped, 200, 150. Um, and then there was some support at this 1030-ish area. Um, if that green candlestick kind of comes close to that 50 EMA, chances are that it could go higher the very next day. Maybe test the 200 EMA, I meant the 100 EMA, but that's not what happened, and we have to take really a keen eye when we start seeing stocks like this. We have to really start thinking about, oh, okay, well, you know, um, even though it's the reverse of my strategy, where is the best way that I can get out? And that's what I did. I found the best way of getting out was right in the, right after the market opened, because I'm not a big fan of how the stock looked. I wanted to get out as soon as possible. So, I bought 250 shares somewhere around this 1080, 1090 area, and then I sold the next day at 1180, 1179. So this was something that, like I said, I typically do not play just because of how it can go. And this is exactly how it can go. This is exactly what I expected. I expected this to do, you know, a reversal, and that it did. It came straight down, and we see it's trading below the VWAP. It's trading now below the 50 EMA. The 50 EMA is starting to, go closer towards the 200 EMA, and it's just going to go down lower. So, and that's what it did throughout the whole day. And once again, it's an oil play, so I'm not really, keen on playing oil. But I knew that I wanted to test out my reversal strategy and see if, some of these candlestick patterns actually do help. So it did help with that one. So that was APY, QTNT. Um, Same thing. I bought and I sold. It had some good news. Um, it's a reverse of my strategy. That was another thing. So I wanted to get out. Um, I bought at 9.33 and I sold at what, 11? I think it was. It was like 10.50 maybe. Let's go back. Yeah, 10.50. Yeah. So I end up selling this one at 10.50 after buying it in the pre-market. I mean, in the after hours. And I remember buying this when they came out with some news. Apparently, they also had a good drug for coronavirus. So I was watching them in the pre-market and seeing what they were doing. Then I ended up, I'm in the after hours. Was seeing what they were doing in the after hours. I bought some, and then let it just ride the wave into the pre-market the following day, in which it was starting to find some like slowdown. And because it was starting to find some slowdown, I really thought it was going to bounce higher because even when we look at the RSI, it was showing that it was oversold. It was just that it wasn't getting enough movement, enough volume in the pre-market. So it was starting to trend lower. And because it was starting to trend lower, I actually ended up selling it because I just wasn't seeing that strength, the break past 10.50. Um, and the $10 was a strong resistance. I ended up selling it right into that spike, but as we can tell, once again, you know that reversal pattern on the year chart. And I probably shouldn't say reversal pattern, but it's a reversal to what I comfortable. So even though we have this 200, 100, and then 50, right? And then that we see that on the day that I bought, not only did it have good news, but it was also a strong candlestick, a strong green day, and that green day was hovering over the previous trading days. So I said, hey, this is also a good reason why I should buy. At the time, I think it was barely overbought, or yeah, it was barely overbought, and the momentum was obviously just turning strong. So I said, you know what, this is something that I could particularly buy because it still has a chance to go up, and that it did, but it also came back down. So just taking key note of how that 200 EMA can definitely allow a stock to trade near it, and it could spike above it, but it will typically slam it right back down, so it won't go too high. So, and as we can see now, where is it? It's at 887. Possibly this can go higher once this 50 EMA crosses over the 200 EMA, and then we get the golden cross, right? This is something I will also keep a lookout on in the future. And I probably should just do one last one. I don't want to go too in depth. I'll show you TXMD, TXMD, same thing. I wasn't really trying to trade this at all. I ended up trading it. I got in on this day. I got in actually at $2, and I sold at $2.30 just because I knew it was gonna, it's right by this 200 EMA. Actually, a friend of mine actually was really keen on trading this, and I'm not a fan, but I still did anyway, and it just so happened I lucked out and was able to profit on it. But essentially, bought this. I think I bought this in my Robinhood account, not in my Thinkorswim. Yeah. So I do have a Robinhood account. It's a little bit smaller. Um, it's a little bit smaller, but I'm growing that account, and it's actually doing pretty well right now. But when it came to this stock on Thursday going into Friday, I I saw this spike, and I was anticipating at least, you know, no, that was Thursday. This was Thursday. I believe it was Thursday going into Friday. I know I didn't buy in the twos up here. I know. definitely it was, and then it had to been Wednesday going into Thursday. Let's see my notes. Let's do that. Um, yeah, so it was the 29th. Bought this. Bought this during the after hours against my own judgment, waiting for the price to pull back since I was researching its contraceptive ring and patent exclusive deal until 2039. Um, yeah, so I identified that there was support at 192 and there was resistance at 213. And the only thing that can cause this to move higher is volume, and which it did. Um, and on the 30th, which was that Thursday, so I did sell it on Thursday night. So it was Wednesday going into Thursday. So I sold it at 230 as it tried to go to 250. Um, and then pretty much everything that I'm talking about with the EMAs right now. So when I did buy it, like I said, I bought it somewhere around here. I guess I think it was somewhere around here. Like I said I bought it in the after hours or before the after hours, and it was strong on the day, right? It was strong on that Wednesday. Um, but once that Thursday was starting to come, I had to sell it. I had to get rid of it. There was no way that I was going to hold on to this and think that I was going to profit. And what did it do? It did the same exact thing. Like, so all of these reversal patterns have been downtrending and they're trading below the VWAP. They're trading with the 50, 100, and 200 EMAs, below all the EMAs. So it has been doing exactly what it typically does, right? It hasn't, like, I am really not seeing any big changes, and using the EMAs is really, really, really helpful for me. So that's TXMD. I just want to go over that one real quick, just to show you that the EMAs really do play a key importance. So like the last one that I want to really, really, really talk about is UAVS, and I believe that this is probably the one stock that everyone might have been baffled by. I know I was baffled by this for a couple of days. I've been watching this for at least I would say at least 7 to 8 days, bare minimum. I was trading it when it was in the 50 cents or 60, 70 cent range, um, just because I thought that it could go higher. And as we see here, you know, it, I was down over here, right? I was down over here in the 70s trying to get some. Um, and it just wasn't happening for some odd reason. For some odd reason, it just wasn't happening. Um, it wasn't breaking. It wasn't doing anything that I really, really, really hoped that it could do. Um, but I took small profits on the way. But when it finally started to move, um, I was actually looking at it late. I was looking at it extremely late. I think I was definitely in another trade, that's for sure. But as we see here, I ended up buying some at 174, and then I sold some at 231. And essentially, the main reason why I ended up buying is because all the EMAs was crossing over the VWAP, and because they crossed over the VWAP, it just let me know that it had potential of going higher, which that is usually the first indicator of a stock. So I bought some more. I bought some more at 237 in the after hours, and as we could tell, it was starting to go not only higher to the threes. And this is the one thing that I wish that Thinkorswim really had. It was availability to trade after the pre-market opens. So at 4 a.m. pre-market opens, it would be really nice if all traders can have some ability to trade there, but clearly that wasn't happening. Um, and so I tried selling at this 330 area, um, but it was still at 6. So the market really didn't open for all of us as traders until 7 on the Thinkorswim platform. So I end up just selling here at 315, right? There's not 315, 290. I was trying to sell it at 315, but At the time, I was in the shower and I was like, okay, I still have some time. And then I really didn't have any time. So I sold as it was declining. And as you can tell, it came down pretty strong, right? It was a very strong decline. After that decline, right here, we see that not only is it trading below the VWAP, where's the purple line? The purple line is right there. It's also trading near and close to the 50 and the 100 day. It's starting to come down to the 200. So I pretty much thought that this would have been a dead stock for the rest of the day, and it turned out not to be. And the reason why I even sold there as opposed to waiting longer, which I could have waited. They had earnings call at 11 on this day, and at 11, this is a midday call. They're they let out a lot of news, and I tried getting in on the conference call. I was waiting for a while, just wasn't happening, so I just got tired and hung up. But essentially, I was waiting to hear what they had to say in the news because I had no idea what it meant in their news when they reported that they had a mixed filing. And that mixed filing, I was like, what? And like, what is a mixed filing? So I wanted to know what the mixed filing entailed. And because I didn't know that, even if I would have went to the SEC website to really look up their filings, I didn't see anything. It just gave me chances to say, don't stay in too long, and definitely don't stay when it's close to earnings being reported. And exactly what happened. This not only did it run up, like you see, it's trading over the VWAP, and it gained some volume and velocity behind it. It gained all of that. It went from 240 to 515, and then a precipitous drop after that. But besides this, $2 run up, we had to look at what earnings was going to be reported, and also, even though it is a low float, right? It has 23 million in its float. We also know that earnings can do a whole lot of damage um, if it's anything bad, and which it was. It was a whole lot of bad, and as you can tell, there's a gap down because the stock got halted. So when you have a stock that's not only reporting during the middle of the day, like not during typical hours, like the after hours market or before the market opens, is actually trading in the middle of the day. The chances are of a stock being halted because of all that news fluctuating into the cycle is going to be tremendously strong. So, and because it was that strong, they had to halt the stock, the circuit breaker, halted everything, and then once it opened back up, there was this giant gap down. So this is the only reason why I even really noticed this. One is because, well, let's go back. One, there was a couple of spikes back here, right? So okay, there's spikes. Um, this flat line almost deterred me from trading it because it was just not doing anything for such a long time. But once I found that it was up, and I think it was this day, I was like, okay, why are you even up? And it didn't really show me anything. Um, it just said that it was halted. And let's see if we go to the news. Yeah. So yeah, so there was there was a order to manufacture commercial drones for the package delivery. Now, at the time, I didn't see the reporting of some internet e-commerce company trying to do any work with them. I wasn't really seeing that. I was just seeing what the chart was saying. It said it was overbought, and then it pulled back, right? And then, as we can tell here, it was trying. So I even tried buying again in this 90 cent area, thinking that, hey, this green day is higher than that red day and it should go higher. But it didn't. The very next day it came down. And I remember during the after hours, it was starting to go down strong. Um, and I thought it was just going to go down forever at that point. But it held. And not only did it hold, it found that the very next day it could break that $1 area, And that $1 area was the biggest part of its resistance. $1, it was just not trying to break, but once it finally broke it, it did. Um, like you know, I was there when it was in the $1. I bought some on my Robinhood account and on discount, as you can tell, in my Thinkorswim. But this in itself, when you have a stock that goes up so strong, the chances of it coming back down are just as likely. We just don't think that it will come back down in this type of intensity, and which it did. This is one candlestick for each day, and it came back. It came back very bad. So, when you have a stock, particularly like this, it is very very important, especially when they're in the less than $1. It is very important to not only one look at their SEC filings, or two do really all the statistical analysis, like knowing where their how what was their average volume, what is their float, what are they trading on the day. Those things really do make a difference, on knowing what their statistical values are. I'm not even talking about PE ratios or earnings per share. Like, yeah, that makes sense for when earnings are coming out and you really want to get into the deep into the financials. If you're really just looking for where to buy low and to sell high, you can always find it by using your MACD RSI, to find out where the overbought and the momentum is going. And then you can always use your VWAP to see if it's trading below the VWAP and see if it's trading near the EMAs. And if it's trading near the 200 EMA and it's oversold already and it looks like it has some opportunity to bounce, really use all the indicators to see if it can really make that U-turn. So, with this stock, I don't have much else to say. The SEC filings or the mixed shelf filing for me was enough to let me know that do not trust everything that the stock has to say. It might say, that they have a deal with UPS or Amazon or whoever, but if you can't clearly identify to me what the 6 million shelf is, then I don't really want to be in that stock, and you know, and that's what it is. So that's all I have to say for now. I think that this was definitely a great lesson. I've only traded for the past week, that Monday through Friday, not including BLPH, because that's one that I held from Friday into Monday. I technically traded 8 stocks. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I only traded 8 stocks, which is a whole lot better than what I wanted. Now I wanted in the previous weeks. I'm trying to lessen the amount of stocks that I trade, so it's not. I'm not approaching double digits. I'm not approaching 10. I want to be like around 5 stocks that I'm really focused on throughout the week, and you know, depending on whatever market news that comes out, I'm not just throwing money at the wall, hoping that a stock can move. So hopefully that this is helpful. I am looking at one stock for coming into Monday. So I will do more of an analysis on that one in another video. But for this, I am up. I recovered that $1,000 loss that I had at the very beginning of the week with INO and BLPH, and I was able to ideally recover everything with UAVS, QTNT, APY, a little bit on TXMD, and some on MRSN, not a lot. So you know, you know, finding it. I only broke back even, but after losing Monday, I was able to turn it all around and get all my money back by the end of the week. So, that just shows that there is a lot of improvement that I've made, and I only want to continue making more improvements. So hopefully this video will help you identify when to not only just see a chart pattern and why certain chart patterns are helpful, but to also see how the intraday play is as well. So, you know, as I'm showing you the year charts, the differences of the year charts on a lot of these stocks here are the ones that I traded during the week. So these are the ones that I traded. Even ASTC, I got in and then got out just because it wasn't breaking that $3 area. So I got out, lost $20. Wasn't all that crazy. Try to trade BKYI, didn't do what I thought. The setup is nice though, and I can still see it doing something. So I will continue to watch this, you know, for now. But we can see a strong green day right here, even though on Friday it didn't have a strong green day. Friday was pretty much a sell-off anyway, but it didn't have it had this green day on that Thursday, and you know, as we could tell from the previous days, you know, it's holding above one, and this also has compliance that it has to maintain with the Nasdaq to hold the stock price above one. So that's another reason why I'm looking at this. Another reason why I end up buying it, right? So, you know, these are some of the things that we kind of just look at. You know, I like it when all the EMAs are that, or you know, 50, 200, 100. They're in that sequential order, just because, you know, they can go higher. They can go so much higher when they are all above the 50. When the price is trading above the 50 EMA. Um, UAVS, about TXMD, INO. You know, so these are, you know, this is this is what I've done, and like I said, hopefully this will be helpful. I know I ran probably like 40 minutes now. I wasn't trying to go that long. Oh, 50 minutes. Wow. I wasn't really trying to go that long, but this is definitely one week where, you know, it shows significant improvement, and it shows the value of how stocks move. So thank you again. And I will make sure to make it so much shorter. Oh my God. I didn't know that going over these stocks was going to create a 52-minute video, but hopefully you can be able to, if you're not skimming through it, that you can like look at what was bought and, you know, make your own decisions and ideas based on that. So once again, thank you. Be safe. I'm out.